Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome all of you to Coach Fisch's spring press conference. Once again, Coach Fisch will start with a statement, and then we'll open it up for questions. Without further ado, we'll go to Coach Fisch.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here today, the day after signing day. Another crazy couple of weeks, and really what these kids have gone through over the year to be recruited in a situation where they can't really see or see their coaches or have official visits on campus. What a unique year, to say the least. But we were able to really finish strong, and I felt really good about where we are as a program. Sorry, my voice is going from talking on the phone so much the last few days. But, where we are as a program, where we're going, how this thing is taking off. And we obviously took a different approach based on the way we were structured as a team, based on our roster at this point. We were very actively involved in the transfer portal, as you guys have all seen or read about. We just signed a couple of high school kids in this group. We signed a bunch of high school kids in the last group, called in December. But this past go around, we were really heavily focused on the transfer portal to really fill some holes that we felt we needed to fill, and also add depth, which we felt was necessary to do as well. So really excited about where we went, where we took it. Our coaches did a phenomenal job in a very short period of time to make sure that we were able to get what we needed. And it's not over yet. We still have some opportunities here. We still have some scholarships available for this final group here of, let's call it, in the next few months. We probably have another 3 scholarships available, and then we'll probably have our full roster in check for summer camp. So all is good in terms of that. We had some a big group of preferred walk-ons that are very interested, and we can't speak about them at this point in time based on the NCAA rules. But that's obviously been a huge part of our program. And then we can talk about, though, anyone that has signed a scholarship or an NLI, and excited to do that. Did get to meet the class on Zoom prior to, really spoke to all of the 2020, call it, signees in December. I spoke with all of them the first week in January on a Zoom call, and all their parents. And then obviously the latest group are guys that we brought in once we arrived. So we're all excited about everybody, and hopefully we can make our team better fast with the group that we have. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, and looking forward to answering any of those for you guys.
All righty. First hand raised, Justin Spears, Arizona Daily Star.
Coach, good to see you. One of the more notable things about your class is the number of transfers you were able to get. What was your selling point to these guys?
Well, we start every conversation with the personal relationship, and how it's personal has really taken on a mind of its own in terms of the communication, how we talk to these kids, and these kids understand it and recognize it, that we feel in a short period of time we could build a pretty personal relationship. We also believe that we can help these kids get to where their personal goals are. And with that mentality, what we're asking them to do is to trust us in regards to helping them become a pro on or off the field. And then also with our message that a lot of people that transfer from one school to another are transferring for 2 reasons. Either they want to get back closer to home because they're somebody from the West Coast or from Arizona that chose to go to a different school for one reason or another, or feel like this is the best opportunity to help them become an NFL player. And those were our 2 messages. And we feel really comfortable and really good about how that's worked itself out.
And a number of the guys that transferred are in-state guys. How important was it to, get some of those guys to come back home?
Really important. And we're not done yet. Like I said, that we're going to continue to take that mentality of trying to own the state of Arizona, right? We certainly have a goal. We have one goal on our football team. And that's to own the Pac-12 South. And we also in the recruiting have a goal of owning the state of Arizona. And we've got to do that. We can't let some great ones out, which we know that that's always going to happen, but we want them to be out on our choice, right? We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get every one of those great ones in the state. And with that, it certainly started off right with the amount of guys that have come back from out of state back in state.
And then the two quarterbacks that transferred in, a little bit different. What are you expecting out of those guys, and what made you want to get those guys to join the program?
Well, we wanted to add depth to our quarterback room. That was a very important part of our strategy once we arrived. It came down to the fact that we needed to find a way to have more scholarship players, more depth, more competition in the quarterback room. We wanted to bring in a bunch of players into that room to go compete, and that's what we did. And the two that we can talk about today, one of them's from the state of Arizona, a very competitive player that's got 4 years left of eligibility. Big kid, Gunnar Cruz, can sling it around well, is athletic, is strong arm, does have some really good physical skill set. And then Jordan McLeod from South Florida. And you watch his last game against Central Florida, he completed 74% of his passes. He threw for over 400 yards, threw for 4 touchdowns against a good UCF team. And you could see a lot of his skills. So we feel like we got a really good group of quarterbacks already here. I obviously very impressed with Will Plummer with the games that I've watched him play. He'd be the one that I could say that I saw play so far. The other guys we haven't been able to even watch throw a ball yet. And then obviously very impressed with what Gunnar and Jordan can bring to the table as well. So we got a young guy, a veteran guy in between, and we'll see how that all plays itself out.
Jason Shear, you're next.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, with the amount of transfers that you got, besides one, how important was it that these guys had multiple years to play in the program?
Yeah, Jason, that was a big part. We had to figure out, were there grad transfers that we wanted that we felt like, hey, this is going to be someone that might come in for one season, right? And accept that and understand that. And that's kind of how the grad transfer world usually works. But we didn't want to build our team on that. We didn't want to sit there and say, we're going to have to redo this again in a year from now. So most of, I think 7 of our guys that we brought in all have multiple years. And really a lot of the guys, you're talking about like the Maldonados and the Drake Anderson and the Jason Harris and guys like that have multiple, Gunnar Cruz. We're talking about 4 years left. It's really like bringing in a high school kid at that point in time. We brought in, I think, 4 or 5 freshmen or guys that finished their freshman year. So those are really like bringing in a high school kid that had a year of training and just kind of redshirted their year. And now we get to take advantage of that opportunity as well. So really excited about that group.
When you take a look, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but 2022 full class, you guys have been offering quite a few guys. How do you kind of balance finishing out the class of transfer portal versus looking ahead a little bit?
We got to attack 22. We've got to attack it. We understand, what this class was. This was a final sprint. We arrived, our staff wasn't really completed until a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. And we just went pedal to the metal. But really, it was more of bringing in guys that wanted to come here for one reason or another, come home or come for opportunity. What we now have to do is we have to spend this next 9.5 to 10 months prior to the first signing period in December and build up these relationships and go after guys and trap them in here in the state of Arizona, bring them to our building when we're allowed to have guys on campus. Let them see our university, let them watch our system and recruit guys to what we do and how we do it, and have guys want to come and say, I want to go play in Don Brown's defense. I want to go play in the Wildcats offense. I want to be a part of that. And the only way we can ever get that done is when they see us on the field. And that'll be the huge part of the 22 and 23 class.
And then lastly, we going back to the grad transfers, Hayward is a 1-year guy, but what made him stand out and worth taking for a year?
Well, Hayward, he was the MAC Defensive Player of the Year in 2019 when they played a full season. So right off the bat, that's somebody that's had a ton of production. Don Brown was very familiar with him from being in the state of Michigan when he was there. And he felt really, really strongly that a guy like Trey Hayward can help us right now. And he was a situation where, yeah, it's a 1-year situation, but it was one that he could come in and he's truly a plug and play. That when he arrives, he goes in, and it'd be very hard to say that he wouldn't be one of the people that'd be starting on opening day. And a chance that we could have his type of quality of play would be huge for us right off the bat. And then from there, we'll take it and build up the depth behind him.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ.
Hey, Coach. Jason Harris, one of those big transfers to come in, a former All-American. Obviously, the Harris family is very familiar with Arizona. But what do you just foresee for him over the next couple of years in a potential tandem with him and Jalen in the front seven in Coach Brown's defense?
Yeah, well, when you look at Jason Harris and you look at his size, his length, this guy looks the part of any defensive end you'll ever see in the National Football League. And when he grows into his body, when he gets strong and then aware of how big he can get, he can become a special player. And, right now he's going to build himself into, he's a high school, or he's a freshman, just finished his freshman year at a school and then came here. So he's got 1 year of strength training in let's call it a collegiate level. And it's our job to really build him up. But he and his brother, he reminds me a lot of Isaiah Rutherford in terms of 1 year at a different program, defensive player, obviously 2 different positions, but big time program, big time ball, big time weight room. And then now they're able to take what they've learned at those 2 spots and now be able to immediately impact our system.
How much did Jalen help in this kind of getting Jason to, once he entered the portal, getting him to Tucson?
Well, you've got, right, their dad played at Arizona. Jalen's at Arizona. Their dad was a teammate of either Hunley or Cecil or one of those guys, right? I don't know exactly his age, but there was a big connection, or Sanders, or one of those 3 guys were all connected to Sam. And the idea that we could get Jason with us, I think it obviously helps when your brother's on the roster and when your dad played here and when you're from Arizona. I don't know why he wasn't here when we got here. So now we have to make sure those type scenarios don't happen again. And we're able to get him here right away. But they all played a part in making sure that we were able to secure him.
And one other question about another player, Ammon Allen, a guy that was highly productive at Highland. I think probably a little bit maybe under recruited. You guys made him a high priority once you came in. Just what skill sets could he bring to the table and play in that Viper position for Coach Brown?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about anybody that didn't sign an NLI at this point in time.
We'll move on to Rich Herrera, Wildcats Radio 1290.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
Hello, Rich.
Let's talk a little bit about the quarterback battle. I know you wanted to pick up depth in the quarterbacks. We did a little preview on McLeod coming over from USF. You have Gunner coming in as well. What are you forecasting this quarterback battle to look like, and what do they need to do to be prepared to win that job in camp?
Well, we're going to roll the balls out and may the best man win. And that's going to be our mentality in spring ball and in fall. We're going to have a very hefty quarterback room. And it doesn't really matter to me whether they were a scholarship player or a walk-on or a preferred walk-on. If they're joining us and, if they're on our team, if they joining us in March, if they're joining us in May, if they're joining us in June. And really for me, it's a matter of who's going to be the guy that leads our team to the most amount of scores in practice. That'll be the indicator. Can you drive the team? Can you lead the team? When you get behind the center and we're having our scrimmages, or we're having our move the ball periods, or we're having those unscripted situations where your job is to go score, That's what we're going to keep track of. That's what we're going to determine who our starter is going to be. And I believe we're going to have an unbelievable quarterback competition. I believe there's a lot of players in that room that believe they should be the starter. I believe there's a lot of players in that room that aren't even in here yet that believe they should be the starter. And with that, we roll them out. The best man will win and the best man will start. And if it's two guys, then we'll have to play two, I guess. But we're going to do everything we possibly can to have a quarterback competition that's going to really bring out the best in everybody.
One follow-up, Coach. We've talked to a number of high school football coaches that have been really impressed with the amount of contact they've had with the staff. Can you talk about the relationships that you've personally been able to build in the high school football community and some of your coaches have been able to rekindle that have been recruiting this part of the country for a while?
Well, we wanted to make it a high priority to keep every kid that deserves to be a Arizona Wildcat in the state of Arizona to be an Arizona Wildcat. And if your quality of play permits that, then we need to make that happen. Well, who is the guy that makes that happen? Their high school coach, the guy that's developed their talent, the guy that they see every day, the guy that has taken them from being a 14-year-old to an 18-year-old and made them who they are physically and made them who they are football-wise. And those guys deserve all the credit. And those are the relationships that we need to build. And it's our job as the University of Arizona football program, really the flagship university in the state of Arizona, to be able to help every one of those high schools make their program better. And if we can assist them in terms of football, we'll do it. If we can assist them in terms of opening up our doors for them, we'll do that. So we've created a program where we do a talk from Tucson every week, where we have 4 coaches talk to all the high school coaches in the state of Arizona and put on a clinic via Zoom. And that's just one step in what we believe is a very long relationship between us and the high school coaches in the state of Arizona.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Lev, Arizona Daily Star.
Yes. Hey there, Jed.
Hey, Mike.
First question is about Gunnar Cruz and Jordan McLeod. Do you expect those guys to be able to participate in spring practice?
I expect hopefully one of them to be able to. Jordan is graduating and Jordan is finishing up his degree at South Florida, which will not be done until May. So Jordan will not be a part of spring. We are hopeful that Gunnar will be a part of spring, and we're working through that right now.
Do you have a start date for spring practice at this point?
Yeah, I think it's March 24th or 22nd, whatever that Tuesday is of that week. We'll go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for 5 straight weeks. No break. And that'll be our spring game. Will be Saturday, April 24th.
Sure. Not necessarily in terms of what guys, but in terms of timing, what are the options you're considering with the remaining scholarships that you have?
Well, we have the ability to sign anybody through really the start of training camp. So we're going to be willing to do that. There might be a couple guys that come earlier than that or present earlier than that. And that'll all be based on our numbers. But I mean, we're not going to shy away from bringing a great player in here. And if we have the ability to do that, we're going to do that. And then along with that, I don't want to create scheme that is so hard to learn that you need to be here for 5 months to learn it. I want to create a scheme that on both sides of the ball, that if we have a great player, that we're not going to slow them down because us coaches want to be the smartest guys in the room.
Sure. How did the arrangement with Teddy Bruschi come about?
Well, when I took the job, Coach Belichick introduced us via a text, and then Bill called Teddy, and then Teddy and I talked on the phone that night after I accepted the job. And then about a day or two later, I invited him over to my home to have coffee and just kind of talked to me a little bit about what Arizona football meant to him. His wife was an Arizona athlete as well, as you all know, and from Tucson, what the Tucson community was like. It was an easy relationship because of the fact that we had the Patriot connection and we had the Coach Belichick connection. We talked and I mentioned him. I said, hey, there might be a situation here that a lot of teams have begun to create a advisor-like role in a program where you're not required to put too much time in. You can do your other job full time, that you're able to be a resource, a reference, and yet also be able to impact the kids in a lot of different ways. And would that be something that you'd have interest in? And he said, yeah, let's continue to talk about it. I think, we needed to build a relationship ourselves. And then when we did that, we were able to spell out something that worked for everybody. One in which, he could be a reference for me at times. There's an opportunity for him to talk to our guys regarding whether it be social justice or whether it be our leadership council and some things that occur on and off the field that maybe he can bring some light to as a, Hall of Famer. Patriot Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, Arizona Hall of Famer, and 3-time Super Bowl winner. And then also not take away from what he's doing, which is, being a great dad, being a great husband, and then also being probably one of the top ESPN hosts. So he could do his job and I could still use him as a reference.
Sure. Finally, how often would you expect him to be in Tucson?
Oh, I don't think I even know that, but hopefully we'll start with the spring game. That'll be assuming that all things COVID allows that. That'll be hopefully we'll get him here for April 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Jason Shear next in the hands. Jason.
Coach, just wondering, Isaiah Rutherford is a guy that was really successful coming out of high school, added him to the fold. What will he bring?
Yeah, I was really excited when Isaiah decided to commit to us and then be here already. He's already on campus and already participating with our team. You're talking about a really, really talented corner with really long arms. And if you're going to play man coverage and play post high safety like we're going to play, you need corners that can cover and corners that can defend contested throws. And to get a guy like Isaiah to come back west, he was another one that went to a school in the Midwest, went to Notre Dame, and then to have him transfer to University of Arizona, huge get for us, huge get for our defense. And I envision him being able to compete pretty quickly in terms of being able to be a starting corner for us.
And then you mentioned only taking a few high school guys, Isaiah Taylor, Anthony Simpson, the two of them. What do you hope they bring and what made you take them?
Yeah, well, really both of those guys in this group, you look at Isaiah Taylor, first of all, I don't shy away from liking gene pools. I hired Scott Spurrier. I like the gene pool of guys that have grown up or around Hall of Famers. And Isaiah Taylor's dad, being Jason Taylor, I feel really good about how he grew up in a football family. Then you watch his tape and you're like, I don't care what his last name is. I want this guy on our team. And then you see what program he went to. You're talking about a St. Thomas Aquinas kid, probably arguably top 5 high school program in the country, year in and year out. So when you can get a guy like Isaiah, who comes from a football family, Hall of Fame uncle, Hall of Fame dad, you get a guy who has an unbelievable Hall of Fame high school coach, unbelievable lineage, and then can play that Viper position, that safety position. Super thrilled about him. And then Anthony Simpson, you get him and you're like, okay, now this guy can just score touchdown after touchdown on offense and then can pick the ball off and defend guys. I think he had 43 touchdowns and 10 interceptions or something to that effect. I think I'm right on that, but it could be off by 1 or 2. But someone that could score on offense and get interceptions on defense is a pretty impressive deal. And he's a star athlete. He can really change the game in terms of when he's on the field, kickoff return, punt return, defense, offense. And we're we're bringing him in as an athlete. And I think we'll have a tug of war. We'll have an Anthony tug of war. And we'll see which side of the ball wins between Brennan and Coach Brown.
I would say he's listed as a corner. Is that kind of up in the air until he gets to campus?
Well, I think right now, because he's from Connecticut, we gave Don the win. But we'll see what that looks like once he gets there. I tell him I get 51% privilege on that vote. So we'll see what that actually ends up looking like.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Jason.
Brian Peterson, Arizona Desert Swarm. Brian?
Coach, the 15 players that were signed in December, you didn't really have any input in that happening, but what kind of conversations have you had with those players? And is there anyone in particular from that group that you were pleasantly surprised to have on board?
Yeah, Brian, I appreciate you bringing that group up. They're almost like, you hate to say they become like the forgotten group of the class because of just the way circumstances built. And that's not really a fair situation. What I tried to do immediately upon coming on board is plan a Zoom call with each one of those kids and their parents, and been able to talk to all of them as a group and let them know that whether we were there to recruit them or not, they are Wildcats and they're in this class. And they're a huge, important part of our class. And there's some really good players there. We've got some that are on campus already. We've got guys that are excited about coming come May, and then guys that are excited about being here in June. And as a group, you've got some really quality depth at a lot of positions, and you got guys that are going to compete for starting jobs quickly. Usually when you bring in a high school senior, you're not really going to find that starter day one. But what they can do is they can immediately, I've mentioned this a few different times, that rising tide lifts all ships, and they can come in here and immediately bring talent, speed, size, athleticism to our program, and then take it from there to be able to then become starters as the years have gone on. So super excited about that whole group. There was a large number of them, a bunch of linebackers in one group. To be able to get 4 or 5 linebackers in a group is pretty special, to be able to get all those guys to be a part of it. And then I think we obviously having a Tucson guy like Stevie Rocker, obviously having alumni, a JT Hand, guys like that are obviously big impacts as well to what we're trying to get done here in the program. And those guys are both here on campus right now, and watching them work is pretty cool. But I'm excited to get everybody here. I'm excited to get whatever the number is, 25 right now here. And when we get to have that first meeting, hopefully by then we'll be back to some sense of normalcy. And they're in for a long camp, but hopefully a good one.
And Jacqueline Morgan, he was a guy who had committed to the previous group, decided to sit it out and wait. And there were a couple other guys that did the same, that opted not to be part of this group. What was the conversation like with Morgan to confirm that this really was the right place for him?
Well, I think when you look at his skill set, right, and you look at he's the epitome of that long arm corner that we talked about, right? He's that 6'1", guy that has length and has the ability to defend the pass game. And I think when he saw what we were going to do on defense, now it becomes exciting to be a part of the program. And when you sit there and you say, wait a second, you're telling me all those corners got drafted in the first round? Yeah, that's what we're telling you. You're telling us that I can highlight my skill set? Yeah, that's what we're telling you. So if that's the case, a guy like him is super excited. And, a Texas guy to come here to Arizona is, it's nice. It's pretty close to a neighboring town, and a chance that he can jump on in, get on a plane quickly, and get here is pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Gonzalez, Fox Sports Radio, Tucson. Jay.
Jed, as you were, began your recruiting effort here, introducing yourself, introducing your coaches to players and recruits, what kinds of questions did they have of you and about Arizona? What did they want to know about you guys?
Well, the number one question always is, what type of system are you going to run? That's always the most important thing. Like, if you're a wide receiver and you come in as a triple option guy, you're going to lose some guys quick. If you're if you want to run the air raid and, the former guy before you wanted to run the ball every down. You're going to lose guys quick. So you immediately have to define what you're going to look like on offense, what you're going to look like on defense, and how important your special teams is. And that was the first message that we gave every player that we talked to. The next one was they want to know what type of person are you? What are we getting? What are we getting? And that's really the moms, right? The moms want to know, hey, we're giving our son to you for a period of time for you to mold them in whatever manner you want. And we all know, I've said it numerous times, right? 1.5% of the people go on and play in the NFL. So the other 98.5%, you got to do a great job of molding in terms of not being an NFL player, and do a great job with the 1.5% as well. So they got to know the personal side. And they have to understand that when we talk about being it's personal, right? What are you telling the mom, right? What type of commitment are you making to the family that you're willing to do, that you're willing to take on, that you're willing to really respect them and respect their son in a manner that you can really appreciate what he can bring to the table, and that you're not going to sit there and just say, well, we're going to bring him in, we're going to recruit him, and then we're going to de-recruit him the second he walks in the door. So those are really the two things that I think are most important. And that's kind of where we spend our focus.
Do they not ask you about, wins and losses and how the team has been the last few years? Any of that stuff? Is that not as much of a concern? Is that something that we as fans think about?
Yeah. I mean, the wins and the losses, they are what they are, right? That's the past. That would be, if I walked in and just said, yeah, I was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? Like, what does that really mean? It doesn't really mean much to, in the same way that they were 0-12 in the last 12 games. It's both past history, right? It's like, hey, I could tell you what it looks like, and I could tell you what it looks like to be competing in the game that's being played this weekend, but I can't tell you what your son looks like competing in that game. And the same regard is like, I could tell you what it was like here, but I can't tell you your son wasn't here. He wasn't a part of it. So what we can do as a coaching staff is we can guarantee that we're going to give them the best possible opportunity to win as many games as we possibly can. And we're not going to shy away from trying to go undefeated. We're not going to shy away from trying to win every game we play. And we're not going to shy away from the fact that we're chasing a dream. And, what we want to do is we tell these guys, a goal is a dream with a deadline. So, that's our, whatever our goal might be right now on the Pac-12 South, okay, that's how we dreamt it. And now we're going to set a deadline to get that done. So that's what we talk to the parents about.
All right. Thank you.
You got it.
Going back to Michael Lev.
Coach, what was your strategy in terms of structuring the quote unquote front office?
We want to take on an NFL approach in regards to our building in general. And in order to do that, we needed to compartmentalize our program and recognize that in order for our program to really be at that level that I believe we need to get to and we need to strive to be at, where there was going to have to be changes in the inner structure of how that was going to work. So the approach that I wanted to take was there's a football staff, there's a front office staff, there's a strength and conditioning staff, there's your training, your medical, and your equipment staff. But how are we going to have that all fall under a roof, right? And what were we going to do to make that work? Well, we were going to design it in the same manner as the 32 teams that, compete on Sundays were, which is we have our coaches and then we have our front office. Now, fortunately for me, I just came from New England. So I saw what it looked like when the head coach was also the general manager, yet still had an incredible front office structure. So in college football, that's the role that has to be played. But what we're able to do is we're able to say, all right, here's our assistants. Now we need to have a director of player personnel. That was the same role that Nick Caserio held for us in New England. And we need to have somebody that's really going to monitor the roster. And then on top of that, we need to have a director of college scouting, a director of high school scouting. And that would be the same way as a director of college and director of pro personnel. So we took those two models and we're going to hire a guy here in the next week or so that's going to take on that responsibility of owning our roster and owning the transfer portal and owning the Pac-12 South. and really who are they recruiting? What are they doing? What does their roster look like? And then we have our director of high school recruiting, Ryan Partridge, who we hired already. And his job is to really be the lead dog or the lead horse in terms of identifying, isolating talent. And then we also are going to bring in, or we did bring in, 2 other guys, Brandon Sanders and Cindric Steptoe, which is exact same roles of how you would do a director of player development in the NFL. And then also our director of high school relations and football alumni. And he's got to kind of be our external guy. And then we wanted to bring in some understudies there. So we're going to have 2 on-campus recruiting coordinators, and each one's going to be assigned to another person, one to Ryan Partridge and one to the college guy. And then we're going to also have an analyst for that role. And that's kind of how we developed that department. And we mirrored an NFL team. And I feel really good about how that's gone.
What about Matt Hayes and Matt Doherty? What are their roles in the front office?
Matt Doherty is our director of player personnel. So that's his role. So all the people that I just mentioned to you filter under his department. Matt Hayes is the associate athletic director in charge of football. And really what his job is, he's kind of my right-hand guy. He's our chief of staff. What he's able to do is he's able to take on any responsibility regarding alumni relations outside of football alumni. He's able to take on any of the fundraising capacity. He's able to set our structure on a daily basis. He's able to really oversee the operations side. Then we're able to have a director of football operations and an assistant director of football ops. But Matt's really role is, very similar of some of the other people I've been around, of really being the extension of me. If I can't be at a meeting, Matt can be at that meeting. If I can't deal with a marketing, let's call it a marketing meeting or a on-campus meeting or an academic meeting, we've got an extremely talented guy who, is an MBA, a guy that brought 3 different companies that have been acquired from the private sector to come in and really be responsible for that. He's a great story one day. You should write one on him.
I'll take you up on that. Thank you.
You got it.
We'll go to Justin Spears, Arizona Daily Star. Justin.
Coach, another noticeable thing about your staff, you have a lot of great players, who are a part of the program, guys like Teddy Bruschi, Ricky Huntley, Chuck Cecil, Sanders, Cindric Steptoe. I think 3 of those guys have their picture blown up inside the indoor practice facility. How important is it to have guys like that around the program?
Oh, it's extremely important, but it's also important that we have good coaches, right? And that's what those guys are. That's what I should say. Teddy's role is Teddy's role, and his role is really to help me in numerous different ways, right? His role is not to coach our players, right? That's not his role. His role is to really kind of help in a different variety of ways. But you're talking about bringing back, one of the all-time greatest that's played here, and also the one with the most amount of accolades, along with Gronkowski, right? You have Bruschi and you have Gronk. Those are 2 guys in that capacity. Then you have Chuck and Ricky that are really, really, really good football coaches that are full-time on our staff, working every day with our kids, right? They can be there every single day. And Chuck is our safeties coach. Ricky is our defensive line coach. And when you could bring those 2 guys in to be with our kids every day, I've told this story numerous times. I didn't know Chuck very well. I mean, obviously I went against him when he was a coordinator in the NFL at different teams that I've been at, but Ricky, I was going to bring Ricky if I became a head coach anywhere. I was Ricky's GA in 1999 and 2000. It just happens to be that I became a head coach at his alma mater. It's like a double whammy for both of us. But I've just always respected the way he's been with the personal side of Ricky Huntley is a special, special side. And the way he can connect with our players, with our coaches, with the community, with the alumni. He did that at Missouri. He did that at Florida. He does that here. He just happens to be in the Hall of Fame. It's an extra bonus that he's here. And then, it was very important to reach out and create that position of high school relations, that high school relations and football alumni. And we had that at University of Miami when I was there. And we hired a guy named Hurley Brown, which would be almost an identical hire to a guy like Brandon Sanders. Played in the national championship games, top defensive player in terms of at Miami, was a safety, went on to the NFL for a few years, was a high school coach, was a high school athletic director. We brought him in. It was almost like a mirror image. So I said, find me that guy. And Dave Hickey came back to me and said, I've got that guy. I've got that guy. And it was an awesome recommendation by Dave, and it that enabled us to bring him in. And then Cedric Steptoe was here. And to be able to keep him, what he does with this program, Michael, another opportunity. Or somebody might want to beat Michael Lev on writing this article on Cedric Steptoe, but I don't know. But I'm just going to tell you that that's another guy. The way he communicate, what he does for our kids and what he does for our community, and introduce that whole fifth quarter, that what happens after football, he's really responsible for that. So it's pretty cool to have those guys here.
And also one thing that I've noticed, Brennan Carroll was doing the offensive line Olympics. And then I think yesterday you had a socially distanced barbecue on the field outside of the stadium. How has it been like just getting used to the guys and getting to know them and doing these activities with them as a team?
Yeah, it's such a unique world. If we weren't in COVID, I mean, you would be seeing us like doing handsprings across campus together. Okay. Like we would be everywhere. There wouldn't be anything that we wouldn't be at as a football team. Now, unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't really do almost anything. What we have been able to do is we've been able to have a position meal outside, which we're able to do. And Brennan, of course, can't just make it a dinner. He has to turn it into Olympics, because just like his father, everything has to be a competition. So I walked in there to get a slice of pizza, and I see a whole white dry erase board of teams going against each other in like pool and cornhole. And then yesterday we were able to have an outdoor on Bear Down Field. We were able to have an outdoor barbecue for our kids after we brought in a guest speaker. And what was cool about that is, you respect the rules of the university and the rules of the state of Arizona. So we, have 3 people at a table of 10 outside having a little barbecue, but it is a chance for them to sit with people other than their position group. And it's a chance for me to walk around and at least see these kids outside of necessarily a Zoom call or a team meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Cicala, KVOA. Paul?
Hey, Coach. How you doing? Happy Thursday to you. I just wanted I know you talked a little bit earlier about Stevie Rocker, and I wanted you to just, if you could elaborate on what he brings to the table and what it means to you to have a player like that, another Tucson and another Arizona product.
Well, it starts there, right? It starts there that we're able to take a really good running back, evaluate them from whatever school they went to and whatever, and be able to say, this guy's a really good football player. Okay, great. What state's he from? Arizona. Okay, great. What state is from? Tucson. And that's an unbelievable job by, the last staff to get him here. And what we're able to do is then benefit from their recruitment. And they were able to take a kid that was a Tucson kid, an Arizona kid, a running back, a position that we needed to add some depth to, and, bring him in. And I think that if he played a full season and if he, didn't have some injuries this past year, you would have seen enormous amount of production from him. Seems very talented. Obviously, we haven't been on the field, so I have to work off of tape. And it's, different type of tape than you normally would want to, call it like the everyday, the college tape. He's a high school kid, so you're dealing with high school tape, and he only played as a junior and sophomore. So it's a cool deal, though, to have him. And it's really good that he's in our weight program right now. We have an unbelievable strength and conditioning coach, Tyler Owens, and his staff do a phenomenal job. And they're able to take Stevie Rocker and those guys that came early and just make them bigger, stronger, faster right away.
Thanks, Coach Fisch. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our final hand up right now is Steve Rivera, Fox Sports Radio Tucson. Steve?
Yeah, Coach, because you came late to the dance, no fault of your own, did you find any obstacles that you guys had to go through, given that you were only like 5-6 weeks into this?
Well, more than anything, not obstacles as much as we had to make a strategic plan. Like, what was going to be our plan for these 5 weeks? First of all, 85%, I think, of the kids in the country commit in December, right? So that's first off. So now you're dealing with a 15% pool or somewhere in that range. Then, you know, in a weird world that we're in, there becomes a transfer portal where there's like 1,500 people in it. So the strategy was like, are you going to attack the 15% and see what you could bring in with really a team you don't know and really relationships you've never built? Or are you going to attack the transfer portal where these kids have no relationships with anybody anyway and start building it fast? And we decided to go on the latter. And then we decided to strategically pick a couple people that we had very close relationships with. I mean, I've recruited St. Thomas Aquinas since I was the offensive coordinator at University of Miami in 2010 or 2011. So I've known the head coach there for 10 years. I knew that there was going to be a situation where we were going to get a guy from that school. He was going to make sure that, you know, if there was an opportunity there, and then I knew guys that were very close with Jason Taylor. So that's an opportunity. And then with Don Brown has recruited Connecticut and recruited that school for probably his whole life. So that was kind of how those high school kids came into play. The rest of it was the college move, and that's what we thought was the best move at the time.
All right, thank you.
All righty, that'll be it for today. Thank you, everybody, for hopping on, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.